Well, Ian Lesser is the Vice President of the German Marshall Fund, an American think tank. Thanks very much for coming on the programme.
Good to be with you.
So, do you think this has been a big blunder by Putin?
Absolutely. I mean, if, as expected, Finland and then Sweden apply and join NATO, this will give NATO additional strategic depth. It will give these countries additional reassurance. And it is precisely the kind of thing that I have to assume Vladimir Putin would not have wanted to see. It's a consolidation of NATO rather than setting NATO back.
But does it bring with it its own risks? Does it bring a direct conflict more likely?
I don't think it does. This is clearly something that Russia is not going to like at all. No, I don't think so. In fact, I think it makes the defense of places that are already in NATO, like the Baltic states, much more secure. These are countries that already have enormous capacity for defense. They work very closely with NATO already, but they're not members and they're not covered by the Article 5 commitment of NATO. And I think that's what they're seeking.
Is there any possible alternative explanation here? You are very much of the opinion, clearly, that Putin has made a miscalculation here with this invasion, didn't expect the reaction. Is there any possible other way in which actually this is an outcome he perhaps wanted?
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. I mean, if we take them at their word in Moscow, I don't believe this is true, but it seems to be the Russian perception that somehow NATO and NATO enlargement over the years has threatened them. I cannot imagine that they would want to see further enlargement. And indeed, this is NATO acquiring countries that already have very sophisticated defense capacity. And so I just cannot see this as being good news for Russia, but it's becoming increasingly likely, almost certain at this point.
OK, and what about the possibility? How scared, to use a rather basic word, I suppose, should those countries be? I mean, clearly there's a change in their calculation. They look set now to apply for membership. Do you think the calculation has changed significantly now?
Well, both Sweden and Finland, especially Finland, I would say, are countries that have prepared for, the contingency of a confrontation with Russia for many, many years. They've done it from a position of neutrality, in a sense, but without foreclosing the possibility of NATO membership. And I think what this war has done is to make clear to them that it's one thing to have a close relationship with NATO. It's another thing to be able to count on NATO's security guarantee in a war. And I think that's really what they're seeking at this point. And of course, public opinion has shifted as well.
But you look at Finland, and we mentioned the significance of the history there. It makes the relationship particularly delicate.
Well, it does. I mean, in fact, very early in 1940, there was a winter war between Finland and Russia, between then Soviet Union. And in the end, the Soviet Union, you could say, won that war, but at an enormous cost for very little gain. And the Finns are very conscious of the fact that they fought off the Russians in that contingency. And the Russians will remember the same history. Finland is very well prepared for these kinds of contingencies, including the hardening of society and civil defense preparations and things like that. Finland would be a tough nut to crack under any conditions. As a member of NATO, it would be even tougher.
OK, Ian Lesser, thank you very much for coming on and giving us your expertise. Thank you.
Good to be with you.